VPM Channel oggi è alla Stanford University, alle porte di San Francisco, precisamente è al Lucille Packard Children's Hospital, l'ospedale per bambini, un esempio di efficienza architettonica e sanitaria. La filantropia è un importante aspetto in America quando si tratta di costruzioni relative alla salute, ospedali. Questo cuore la può rappresentare. This heart could be the symbol of the American philanthropy.
Yes, exactly. And this hospital is called Lucille Packard Hospital. Lucille Packard was the wife of David Packard of Hewlett Packard, and she was on the board of the hospital. And she also gave a lot of her own money, a very generous philanthropist. But more than that, she also spent a lot of time working on the design, and children were her real passion. Yeah, they're very complicated because you're not dealing with a single patient, you're dealing with a whole family. And the relationships between the children and their parents, and the relationship between the parents and the caregivers here is a very complicated dynamic. But we were convinced that landscape, art, outdoors, daylight, and so on are a very important part of making the total experience for children less threatening, less stressful.
Looking at the hospital, you have the idea of create like a toy construction. That was what you were trying to...
Yes, we were trying to make the entrance not intimidating to children. And we thought if we could make the entrance of forms with which they were familiar, like toy blocks, like Lego blocks, that they would be, it would be less intimidating. And then, as you can see behind us, the building is terraced. And that's because the functions that needed to be on the first floor were bigger than the functions on the second floor, which were bigger than the functions on the third floor. So it allowed us then to have a building which is like a pyramid with terraces on the upper floors. And that also meant that we could then have access for the children to the outdoors directly without going outside and without going downstairs and involved in traffic. But when the parents come here, the parents are no longer in charge. You know, then the doctors and the nurses and other people become in charge. And there is the parents feel less confident, the children pick up on that, and that concerns them because it's a change in what they're used to. So here we're trying to use the building as much as possible to keep the parents in control so that the relationship with their children remains as much as possible as it is as at home. So it's very important to recognize the difference in this sort of architecture that is to deal with people who need to be here and to make that as pleasant a total experience as we can possibly make that. So again, how does one design for an uncertain future? Because this is bricks and mortar and concrete and steel. You know, it's not rubber. And so one has to have certain design strategies to allow things to grow, change, contract, expand, while still remaining a functioning hospital. And you have to do all of that while the hospital is still occupied. You know, still patients every day, people taking care of each other every day. So designing for an uncertain future is a very important design strategy.
The light is a very important topic, but not only the light, for the smooth entrance of kids from the freedom to a hospital that is now free.
Yeah, I mean, we're using other materials, like you can see that the material on the outside continues on into the lobby and then continues on out directly into the garden. So we wanted a hospital which reflected kids' interests, child-friendly, but no Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse doesn't appeal to everybody. And here there are children, actually patients here in their 30s who came here as children, stay on with long-time diseases.
Siamo nel cuore di questo ospedale. Da un giardino siamo venuti a un giardino, from a garden to a garden. That was not to intimidate the kids, correct?
Right. It was to make the transition from home to hospital as easy as we could make that. So we decided the center of the hospital should be this garden. and it's used mostly at this level. It's actually used mostly by the staff. So they come here, they have their lunch here, and they can meet here and have their meetings here. You can see in the afternoon like this how pleasant it is in the shade. As you can see here, the building is terraced on the outside as well as on the inside, and the circulation on every floor goes around this garden, so you're always aware of the garden. And we made the garden asymmetrical because then you have a sense of where you are. If the garden is symmetrical in a circle, you never know where you are in the circle, right?
Yeah, but in this way...
So by making it asymmetrical, you always know where you are in relationship to the garden. And then the triangular bay windows were an idea that evolved during the design. You can see they're all around the garden. And we call those decompression zones. And those are areas where caregivers or families can come out of the nursing units and have a quiet place to sit overlooking the garden. You'll occasionally see two families, maybe with two children with similar diseases, meeting each other for the first time and sharing their experience and so on. So those decompression zones, they were actually part of the structural design of the building, and then we saw an opportunity to get a triangular window in there as the structural design was evolving.
I think design is absolutely critical, because what you want to do in a children's hospital is you've got many needs you need to meet. First and foremost, you want to provide a clinical environment where you can take care of children who are critically ill, as well as children who are ill but may not be as critical. So you've got a variety of clinical needs that you need to serve in the design, as you would think of the design of a hospital. In addition to that, because we're a children's hospital, you want to create an environment that is nurturing. And one of the wonderful things about this particular hospital and the work that Anshin and Alan did for us here was there was a lot of attention paid to the creating an environment that was not scary for children, that was nurturing and warm. And so there's a lot of features of the hospital that are designed with the child in mind. As you've wandered around today, you may have seen some of those features. The building is a lot of curves as opposed to right angles. There's a big garden in the middle, so it brings the outside in. In the nursing units, the counters have scoops in them so that children can see over the counter. The bedrooms, the rooms themselves are designed more to see if a child is going into their room at home as opposed to into a hospital room. So all of those aspects, all the clinical needs, the operating rooms, the observation rooms, the patient rooms, the pharmacy, the laboratory, and so forth, all had to be designed to meet the clinical needs. And at the same time, you wanted to do it physically in an environment that was very nurturing and supportive for children.
L'ospedale pediatrico di Silpacker qui a Stanford è uno degli esempi di ospedale a misura di bambino che ci sono qui negli Stati Uniti. Dalla redazione californiana di ACM Channel è tutto, la linea torna all'Italia.